Good morning, folks. We're going to get this show on the road. The Subcommittee of Regulated Industries, Gaming and Lottery Oversight. We're about to present a substitute to House Resolution 30. Make sure everybody has the right copy. It's LC 280286S. And this bill is very similar to exactly what we passed last year. It's a constitutional amendment that would require a referendum from all the voters of Georgia to approve. There has been a slight change in what we did, and it will basically take the sports betting piece that is done through the lottery operated sports gaming piece, and that will go to needs-based scholarships and need-based loans at the end of the day. This, of course, is not the enabling legislation. We'll have to come back if this passed with the voters of Georgia, and then we would establish the enabling legislation next year. Also, this would not put a casino in your county. They also would have to pass a referendum if they wanted to allow that to happen in your county. So it has the protections to allow all of Georgia to vote whether they want it or not, and then individual counties to vote on whether or not they want it in their county. Looking through the bill, other than that, that is just about everything that the piece from the casino go back to health care like Chairman Powell had last year. And I think the only real change that you see is that needs-based scholarship and needs-based loans done through the lottery. It will not take the other lottery funds. It really isolates just the sports gambling piece done through the lottery for those pieces. And I think it's about $100 million is the estimate on that. And it would be it would be across the state, mobile, I'm sure. All that will have to be worked out later in the enabling legislation. I think we have. Do you guys have any questions on this? We've got 3 or 4 folks that signed up to speak on this matter, and we want to, of course, hurry because we got to get back into session. But we definitely want to allow people to speak and be heard.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
I should have asked you if you had any questions. We'll let all the speakers go, and then we'll talk.
Hello?
Thank you, Mr. Mike. We appreciate you being here. Sorry for such the short notice. 'Tis the season.
Kind of used to that here these last few weeks. I know that y'all are as well, but I do thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to speak to this committee. I know y'all are trying to do some work to get some things ready to be able to go to the full committee with. This is not the first time I've testified on this issue before. I guess you know that. And I know this has to do with the what is called destination resorts. And this is the 7th year that Georgia Baptists have opposed gambling here at the state. We must have had over 21 resolutions opposing gambling since 1960 at the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. Mike, I think about this, and we talk about all the, quote, benefits. That is talked about very much so when we're dealing with gambling legislation. And the concern with that is that it comes across as an end justifies the means type of philosophy. And I'm very concerned, I know Georgia Baptists are very concerned that our nation and our state, if that becomes the basis for what we do or do not do when it comes to raising tax revenue, then we're getting ready to go off a cliff, because it won't be long that we'll be discussing recreational marijuana. We'll be discussing prostitution, because a lot of the same rationale can come into play. And we talk about destination resorts. When I started this 7 years ago, when we started dealing with horse racing, that was the only time I ever dealt with it, because I work for Georgia Right to Life. We're dealing with other issues. It was all about, we're not going to have any casinos. As you know, there's no card games, no tables, no slot machines. We just want horse racing. It was very benign, because everybody was very concerned about bringing casinos into our state. We just knew. Now it's just, and then it went to just casinos. I'm talking about, and then lipstick got put on the pig. I mean, it looks pretty. Destination resorts. We're going to dress that thing up because we don't really want people to see this for really what it is. So we're going to put kiddie parks out front and, shopping malls. I've heard that even up in the Northeast, where one of the tribes have one of these facilities, that even Chick-fil-A is in the food court up front. You can check it out. And the casino's back in the back end. And so again, that just goes to show you that casinos are gambling. And I really don't have to say anything else about gambling, because gambling is gambling. And I've got the facts, and I'm going to give them to you because a lot of folks don't agree. But these are some facts I'd love to hand out if I could, Mr. Chairman. Those facts right there are 10 years old. Professor Earl Grinnells and Professor John Kent testified, I think in 2011 and also, or 2012. I think again in 2015 before Congress under oath, that for every dollar raised in tax revenue off of gambling proceeds, and not any particular kind, just in general, it costs another $3 in social expense. So I've been sharing this for years, and it seems to get no traction and yet when these bills are being promoted, they're all talking about the facts. But the facts are that if it is indeed about bringing tax revenue into the state, and again, I'll be like the old country boy, they talk about, not even the sharpest, knife in the drawer. I'm not even the sharpest spoon in the drawer. And I can tell you that a 3-to-1 ratio is not going to work. If you're going to bring $50 million in, it's going to cost another $150 million, for example, in social expense, and the expense that goes into DFACs and social services. And we already have mental health issues and addiction. And there have been, and even Georgia State University has a study, and I can give you a copy of it, that they did on gambling addiction and its economic impact on the economy and on the state. And just in general, if you take those and put them together, here are the facts, particularly related to casinos. Crime goes up, bankruptcies go up, addiction goes up, and yes, sex trafficking goes up, and prostitution goes up. I was on the Unholy Tour. I did about 5 or 6 of these, actually sponsored a couple ourselves at Georgia Baptist with Tim Eccles and others. And I was on that tour about the second time, going through Atlanta, through all the sex trafficking areas. And they asked me, we want somebody from Georgia Baptist to stand up and talk about this. And so I said, how many of y'all, and these were activists and legislators, do you think the sex trafficking issue in our city here would go down if we had casinos? And they're like, oh, no way. No way. This is going to make it absolutely worse. So crime goes up, bankruptcies go up, addiction goes up, sex trafficking goes up. Here's another thing: jobs go down, savings go down, and spending on basics go down. It's an economic disaster because of what it sucks away from. People only have so much money, and it's not going to be so benign that people are going to fly in from all over the world here, and it's not going to cost. Because listen, the people that put the most money in the casino gambling industry are the problem gamblers. They make up the smallest percentage of participants, but they make up the largest amount of revenue. And I've seen stats as high as 96% come from problem gamblers, which are 25% or less. Did you know this? 75% or more of the people that gamble are responsible. I mean, that's something to be admired. But that's not where, if everybody gambled responsibly, the industry would make any money. I'm just sorry, that's just not going to be told, because gambling is legalized fraud. That's why you have to have a constitutional amendment. This is not like opening up a grocery store. This is not like opening up a clothing store. You have to have a constitutional amendment to open up a clothing store. You do on gambling because gambling is what it is. And particularly these slot machines where they're using the computer chips now, you are not going to win. you're going to win some because they're going to keep baiting you to come in. So it puts the state in a predatory mode to actually and it hurts our most economically depressed people. It has its negative impact on the people that it says it's there to help. It actually is creating more problems for the revenue that we say we're trying to get the revenue to help. It's unbelievable. Then I'm going to give you this, and I'll be quiet because y'all have heard this a number of times, just like you've heard the pros for it as well. But I'm going to hand this to you, and I'm not here to have a Bible study with you. But in the Senate, in dealing with this, they said, well, we want to see some scriptures. And again, I'm not asking you to make that the sound premise, and I know that says Christians on it. But I have pastored for 35 and a half years in the state. And people have said, well, I'd like to see some scriptures. You got any scripture? Well, there's not going to be a verse that says, thou shalt not gamble. It ain't there. Just not there. There's not going to be one that says thou shalt not drink either. I understand that. But there are things that have to do with the consequences and the irresponsibility in some of those things. And there's no doubt that the government has a moral responsibility, economic responsibility, a social responsibility that does come into play. And let me just go ahead and say this. I'm not interested in being enemies with any of y'all. Matter of fact, I'm friends, I guess, with everybody here. But I'm just saying people with good motives can disagree. We can disagree. And there's no doubt that I agree with you on the needs that need to be addressed. We just can't agree with this mechanism. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have questions? No. What's your number, Mike? Sorry, Representative Walensky, I apologize.
Where's that Chick-fil-A you were talking about?
Somewhere up in the Northeast, and I can't remember, but it is in one of the, I had the documentation on it. Matter of fact, we'd reached out to some folks here in Atlanta to try to verify that. And the best my understanding is that it was about 3 years ago. It's one of the tribes up there has a destination resort, and it's somewhere in the Northeast. I'd have to look that up. But again, that's a food court. Let me say this also. You're going to hear this. We just want to let the people decide. And for us, it won't be a fair fight because studies have already shown that for every dollar we spend in trying to communicate the detriment of gambling, they will spend $250. And so and once the gambling industry gets ensconced into our state government and into politics, the money that they're going to be able to pour in to our state to get what they want, it'll just be insurmountable for us to be able to stand against it. So it'll start at the very moment it goes to the people, of which I think the people are saying to you, don't put something before me that I'm not going to be able to get granular with and deal with all these issues. And I'm just going to be snowed over with all the everything that glitters is gold kind of attitude. Y'all will know that probably 98 or 99% of all constitutional amendments that get on the ballot get passed, or any type of a resolution gets passed, because typically people believe, well, the state legislature wouldn't let this come down here if they didn't think it was something that was okay. So it's not a benign thing by, well, I'm not for it, I just want the people, but there is some inertia behind it saying we're going to let you vote on it because it's something we think is good. I really believe that.
Okay. Chairman
Hey,
Collins.
That's me. Thank you.
There you go, buddy.
Preacher Mike, thank you for being down here with us.
Yes, sir.
And the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. Are there any other denominations that you know of that are in opposition to this? I mean, obviously you're Baptist and you represent the Georgia Baptist.
I think the Church of God has some things. I'm pretty sure that there are others. I'm the only one that I'm aware of that is a lobbyist down here other than Catholics.
Okay.
Archdiocese here in Atlanta has a
Gotcha.
lobbyist. I think
I
I'm
was
the
just-
only one
I was just curious.
that represents a denomination or faith group.
I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Years ago, the Methodists led a lot of this. There was a group, Emmett Henderson, was the head of the Council on Moral and Civic Concerns down here back in the 80s and 90s, I think, which was a conglomerate.
All right, Chairman Mitchell.
Mr. Griffin, I appreciate you more than you know. And I look forward to us working on another issue, the elimination of the death penalty, as you know from our prior discussions
Yes, sir.
as well.
You know, I'll work with you on that in some
but-
way.
But I just wanted to come and let you know that the Chick-fil-A about a year ago opened up in the Golden Nugget on the Las Vegas Strip. They have a Chick-fil-A there. Apparently it's doing very well on Las Vegas Strip.
Hey, thank you for that information. Look at you, Google, wearing it out.
Yeah.
So that's what they would call business up front, party in the back. Is what I think that is. All right. Any further questions? Yep. All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you, Mr.
much.
Chairman.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you,
Mr. Mike.
committee.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Mr. Chairman? Hello?
Hey, is this
Hello?
that's Miss Karen?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. I have a question.
All right.
You
go ahead.
mentioned that the enabling legislation would come sometime next session. Is it not true that it's typical for the enabling legislation to come before the constitutional amendment so that the members know exactly what all the stipulations would be?
I don't think so. I think that you do the constitutional amendment on the referendum, and then we come back and then we negotiate the enabling legislation. All that information does not, it sets up the commission that we will then turn around and give the rules and regs to that commission, if you will.
May I follow up with a second question, please, sir?
Yes, please.
My next question, did I understand you to say that all of the sports betting monies would be made available for needs-based, while all of the destination casino and horse racing monies would be healthcare?
Yes, ma'am. And that would be in that constitutional amendment.
And one last question. You mentioned about $100 million for the sports betting, and how much would be anticipated on the destination casinos and horse race and pari-mutuel betting?
I apologize. I don't have that information, but I remember it being extremely large. I do apologize. I don't have those notes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. We're gonna go to the Zoom, or do you want to let her? Miss Nancy, are you on Zoom?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
We thank you so much for being here being in the virtual here this morning.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
you have the floor.
Okay. I would like to follow up on one little fact that the gentleman from the Baptist Commission spoke about. There is another Chick-fil-A, and it's in the Connecticut Casino, Mohegan Sun. So there it is, business in the front, or local business in the front, and gambling in the rear. My name is Nancy Meyer. I'm a school teacher. At present, I'm teaching ESL to adults through the technical college system of Georgia. I've lived in Germany. I lived in St. Croix, and I have gambled myself. Why is that a problem for us? There are many reasons and many studies which have been done of the detriments of gambling in the United States and now in Georgia. Number one is sex trafficking, gambling addiction. When our representative, Mr. Al Williams, met with us a few weeks ago, he mentioned that there would be $5 million allotted to combat the people who suffer from gambling addiction. Our question is, why do we need to even spend that money when we don't need to have a casino? that's drugs, driving from Florida north on I-95, the area where I live, that is supposedly going to be one of the destination locations. It's exit 76 on I-95. That's a perfect drop-off point for drugs, illegal arms. It's perfect, would be a perfect cover. So that's the state. Why do we as a local area not want gambling? We do not want a casino in our area. Number one, we are a rural area. We are not a destination. We are in the middle of nowhere. The middle of nowhere. Our county commissioners and our representative, Mr. Williams, have assured us that if and when the vote comes, that every voice will be heard in Liberty County. Sirs, and I don't see any women in the room at the moment, so it's just sirs. The people and the lives which will be affected, or who will be affected from this casino, live about 10 miles away. We are 2% of the population. If you look at our area, we're almost right at the wonderful, pristine coast of Georgia, the 100 miles. 100 miles of pristine Georgia coast. We have Cay Creek right in the area, many deep water rivers. Where will the wastewater go? Will it be dumped from the wastewater treatment plant into our rivers, go out to the ocean? Is that going to be the solution? Georgia was one of the first states, gentlemen, back in the 40s, I believe, who enacted the Marshland Protection Act. Are you going back on that? Do you no longer want to take care for our Georgia coast? We are environmentally sensitive. I know you realize that. Drugs would be another large problem. Multi-generational, multiracial, racial families have lived in this area for generations. What will become of us and everybody here when the casino comes in? And believe me, I know our representative and I know our county commissioners, and they will push it through. 2% of the Liberty County population will not be able to stand against the other 98% who live 45 minutes away. Let's see, what else do we have here? We're a small town community. We have a lot of Revolutionary War history. 2 signers of the Declaration of Independence were from here. We have the Midway Church, the Midway Cemetery. We have Fort Morris. Are these to be destroyed? Because, gentlemen, you know, when 7,000 people, expected people, stop at the casino, they are not going to shop in Midway, Georgia. They are not going to shop at the local IGA or the Parkers or the local McDonald's or our wonderful little barbecue spot right off the interstate. They will stay in the casino. It will not help local businesses at all. Heading from the interstate to the coast, there's one road, in and out. Are you going to 4-lane the highway to the coast to accommodate all of these people who supposedly are going to put their money in Liberty County? I don't believe so. Unemployment is already low here in Liberty County. We don't need a business like this. I'm just trying to see if I've covered all of the facts that I wanted to talk about. Drunk driving on our road, a 2-lane road. We don't need any more of that.
Miss Nancy, we appreciate you very much. Does anybody in the committee have any questions for Miss Nancy? Oh, number 2. 1 second. Chairman Collins.
I just wanted to point out one more time, and I think it's probably been said, that in discussions about the enabling legislation, you know, if we do adopt a policy of a resort destination casinos, it has to be voted on statewide. And then your local government has to ratify that also. So there's two forms of two opportunities that the citizens of the state can have and will have to voice their opposition and to rally around that. So if you're in opposition of a casino and you don't want a casino in your community, you're gonna have to vote twice to approve that or reject that. So I mean, there's some guardrails that are being put in place to make sure that there's fair representation and a fair voice to the people. I just want to point that out again.
Could I reply to that, please?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
You are right about the state of Georgia. Sir, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. Every citizen in Georgia will have the right to vote yay or nay. Oh, there's a woman. Good morning, ma'am. That's true. But what I also said to you, and it's very important, Liberty County, that's where the resort destination is supposed to be. One of the locations, I realize that. Our representative, Al Williams, has been coming to our county for quite a while. And we just realized this 2 weeks ago when the television station, WTOC, did a live report about the casino. He'd been going to the Rotary Club, to the city council, to the county commissioners, but nobody really understood. And I'm telling you right now, sir, that our county commissioners and others have word has lost me. Sometimes my German comes in with my English, have already said or indicated that they will be for this casino. So yes, you say everybody has a vote, but if you are in the county where the vote is going to take place, and you are on the end of the county, because Liberty County is long and narrow, and you're on the end of the county where all of the Revolutionary War history is, where the pristine coastline is, and you are 2% of the vote, there is no way that Liberty County will not be the next destination, if you understand what I'm saying. So please do not tell me that I have 2 votes. I will vote, and I am here because we do not want a casino in our area. And I am here also, even though I am a Democrat, I'm going to say it, I am very upset with our representative. Very upset, as are many people in our county.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much, Ms. Nancy. You got a quick question from a fellow Democrat. 1 second.
All righty.
Miss Meyer, first of all, let me just say to you that your
Who is this?
my name is Billy Mitchell.
Hello, Mr. Mitchell.
And let me just tell you that I happen to know your representative very well, and truly he represents you extremely well. I'm sorry you disagree with him on this particular issue, but I can assure you you're being very well served. And let me just ask you a question, Ms. Meyer. You sound like a very compelling witness. I do believe that your voice would sway a lot of people in Liberty County. But just because your county commission is in favor of this, they have no more votes than you do. They just have one opportunity to vote for this issue. But my question to you is it your position that no one in Georgia should get to vote on this issue because you don't want it in Liberty County?
No, sir. No, sir. I believe that, I am not for a casino on anywhere on the coast of Georgia. You are correct about that. However, if you all, our representatives, put forth this referendum and people in the state have the choice to vote on it, I mean, democracy is democracy. I'm not for gambling in Georgia. I would vote no. And I would encourage as many people as I could to vote no. But everybody does have a choice. But I'm totally against it. Keep it, or unless you keep it up there in Atlanta.
Well, thank you.
And sir, I vote for Mr. Williams, just so you know. I have voted for him every time, but this is a little, I'm not in agreement with him on this issue at all.
Well, we thank you so much for your time this morning. And if I was in Liberty County, I think I'd probably vote for Al Williams too. So he's a fine man. I'd
Yes, sir, but
have
not-
to break my allegiances and
Not
vote
in this
vote for
case.
the dark side. I'd probably vote for Al though. He does represent you guys well, and I think this is just a matter that you guys don't see eye to eye on, and that's the beautiful thing about democracy is the voters will decide. We appreciate you very much, and thank you for being here. And we're going to move on to our next speaker so we can get into session today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
I have those remarks recorded, and they'll be on Al Williams' next commercial.
That's it. All right. Well, guys, any further questions, discussions before we vote on this matter? All right. Without hearing anything, Representative Walensky has a motion. Got a second from Mr. Collins. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It moves on to full committee. Thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate you making it work this morning, guys. We are adjourned.